Good day, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Just Fish Outdoors. I'm your host, Dale York, and I designed Just Fish Outdoors to focus on freshwater lakes and streams and to provide information, tips, and techniques, along with how-to segments for catching everything from crappie to catfish. We will also provide tips on equipment, tackle, boating, and much, much more. All of this is aimed at helping you catch more fish and have fun doing it. So join us each week as we talk about my favorite subject, fishing. And that'll bring us to our special segment for today. Folks, when you think about trout and trout fishing here in Oklahoma, Oklahoma is probably not one of those states that come to mind. There's some states, especially east and north, that have much more of a trout history than Oklahoma has. But in fact, Oklahoma has some great year-round trout fishing locations and even more opportunities to catch these great fish in the winter months. And that's what we're going to kind of focus on this week is basically everything you always wanted to know about Oklahoma trout fishing, but were afraid to ask. And to help me with that segment today, I brought in my brother Brian, who's a long-time trout fishing. We've caught these things in several states and pursued them for many, many, many years around Oklahoma. And Brian, thanks for coming into the studio today, and let's talk about some trout fishing.
Let's get it on.
There's several locations around the state that the Oklahoma Wildlife Department stocks these trout. Some of them are wintertime only stocking places because of water temperature in the spring, and some of the water temperature gets above the desired temperature to keep these fish alive, so they're not stocked in the summer. Now, and there are other year-round trout fisheries that are created by releasing water out of the bottom of the dams of some of our area lakes that these trout are located in, and by that release, it keeps the water temperature low enough that these trout can sustain life all year round. And I guess probably one of the closest year-round trout fishery we have is the lower Illinois around Gore, Weber Falls area. And boy, me and my brother Brian, we grew up fishing this thing going all the way back to the 70s. And this is one of our favorite places to trout fish. And one of the things we're going to talk about is how we go about fishing this, what's the equipment, the tackle that we use to do so, and even where we fish on this river. So, Brian, what would you like to open up with?
Well, let me see here. I guess probably the thing to open up with would be number one thing is whether or not they're releasing water. When you get to the river there, it would depend on water release or not releasing any water as to how you would approach trying to catch you some of these fish.
And what Brian's talking about is this is right below Lake Tenkiller. This lower Illinois comes out of Lake Tenkiller. So depending on how much water they're generating and or running or releasing out of the dam depends on really how you approach and how you fish this particular area or this particular river. The first thing we're going to talk about is no water release. And this is common in the summer and in the fall. It's not as common in the spring with the rain, because as the rain goes, the lake gets up and then they release more water, and the river can get a little harder to fish. But we're going to talk about right now, with no water release, what some of our favorite techniques and locations are. And I'll start it off by talking up right below the dam. There's an access area that you can drive right up to the dam. It's one of the state mandated stocking areas. They release fish right there, and it's one of the better fishery locations for catching these fish. And what we usually start with, or what I usually start with, is I usually start with artificials, and I throw a lot of Bobby Garland shads, in the 2-inch range on a 30-second ounce head, something in the shad pattern, even something with some orange or chartreuse in it sometimes, and it seems to produce these fish on a quite regular basis, or even a pearl white. What's your favorite color, Brian?
Oh, I would have to say it'd either be a pearl white, or they make one that's called a baby cricket. It's brown on the back with dark spots in it and a white cream belly. That I've caught a lot of fish on that.
Yeah, and we're throwing this on 5.5 foot spinning tackle. We're throwing 4-pound line, and we're fishing this similar to what you would fish it, in the springtime for crappie or sand bass. We're just casting this out here and kind of hopping it back with the rod tip, and some of these strikes are very aggressive.
Yeah, about like a lawnmower hitting a brick.
And some of the strikes are very, very, very faint. It'll just get a little heavy. So, you have to be prepared for that. You may have to fish several different locations, kind of key on where water may be running at the head of a hole, and then fish the tail out of the hole or the bottom end of the hole. That can really sometimes concentrate these fish on where they're feeding. What else comes to mind, Brian?
Well, that is one of the key things to fishing this river when they are not releasing water. You want to look for water that's moving. When you've got current, you're going to have fish that are more active if you've got current. And if you say you've got a big, long, deep, slow hole, there may be fish in there, but as a general rule, they're a little bit harder to catch if you don't have a decent current flow. But, at the head of this hole, you may have a riffle run or something that comes into it. There'll be fish there. And at the tail end of the hole that Dale's talking about, where it starts to shallow up to go on the next gravel bar, somewhere in that zone back there, in that 1 to 5 foot water back there, you'll find fish back there that are feeding because the current actually picks up at the back end of the hole. And, Dale said, there's a variety of baits you can catch these fish on. You catch them on jigs, you catch them on little spinners, small spoons, small crankbaits. What you want to do is when you're wading the river or walking the banks or whatever, try to keep the noise down a little bit. Just don't go stomping up there. And you want to quarter your cast across the river and upstream. You want to swing that bait down current. As you bring it back to you, you want to kind of bring it down current with the current, because that's more of a natural type presentation for them. And a lot of times that can mean a difference between getting bit or just having one pull up and follow it for 4 or 5 feet and then turn around and go back.
Yeah, presentation can be a real key, and even in trout fishing, it's all about structure. I mean, it doesn't seem to matter what fish you're pursuing, whether you're bass fishing, whether you're striper fishing, trout fishing. It doesn't seem to matter. There's still that structure. The structure may be water current, it may be location, or you may be looking at a fairly lengthy, shallow gravel bar that may be only a foot and a half, 2 foot deep, and in the middle of this gravel bar there's a tree or a stump or a log or a washed out hole, and that's prime stuff. I mean, those fish will gather up in a place like that.
Yeah, they sign up there that says fish here.
Yeah, exactly. Neon sign that keeps flashing. And what Brian was talking about is exactly right. The key phrase here is small. Don't be throwing big lures on these fish. They have very small mouths, and the majority of the fish that you're going to catch in Oklahoma waters are going to be less than 1.5 pounds. And so as a consequence, if you go on the net and pull up a picture of a trout, rainbow trout, and that's what we're talking about here. There's basically 2 main species that are stocked here in Oklahoma, and one of them is a rainbow trout, which is the most prevalent, and the other is a brown trout. They have a lot of traits in common, and one of those traits is a small mouth. They just don't have a very big mouth. So you need to throw something that's fairly small, and these fish sometimes can get to a point to where they like to feed close to the bottom. So whatever you're throwing, you need to be able to fish it fairly close to the bottom. Sometimes they're up on top. You'll see them dimpling. But you need to also be able to fish it sometimes fairly deep, and that's what we're talking about here. What's some of your favorite spinners, Brian?
Oh, I would have to say probably tops number one is rooster tails. We've thrown those things since day one down there on the Lower Illinois. They make a 1/6 ounce and a 1/8 ounce size, which is by far the best size to use. You don't want to get much bigger than an 8 because, like Dale said, these fish have a relatively small mouth, and they don't eat big stuff. Okay, we're talking about the vast majority of the food on this fish's list is less than 2 inches long. And so you want to keep that in mind when you're buying a spinner, when you're buying jigs or any type of artificial. You want to try to keep it at least under that 2 1/4 inch length, because you go get bigger than that, and it may attract them, but they won't hit it because they just it's just too big for them.
Or you'll miss a lot of fish. That they may hit it, but I guarantee you can miss a lot of fish with a bait that's too big. One of the other things we'll talk about too is you don't have to throw artificials. There's another rig or several rigs that you can look at to bait fish for these things, and there's a bait out there that's very common. It catches a lot of fish, and it's called Berkeley Power Bait. And it comes in a variety of colors. Orange is one of my favorite. Yellow is one of my favorite. What are a couple of your favorites, Brian?
Orange metal flake, white, and they make one that's called rainbow metal flake.
Oh yeah, that's got the orange, the green.
Yeah, it's got it all in there.
Yeah, and it's basically a dough bait that's prepared in a jar. You buy the jar, and you get a little piece of it on your fingers. And the real trick here is to put that on a treble hook, a very, very small treble hook. Trying to use just a regular hook, it comes off very, very easy, and sometimes you can get it in the water, but the one bite from the fish and it's gone. So we're talking 18s, 20s,
16, 18s be probably the two best sizes to use with the power bait.
And when you're fishing a treble hook that small, here we go again, you're not going to get very big line through the eye of that hook.
No.
So that's where another place where that 4-pound line comes from. And there are rigs that you can tie. I have a video out there that's not only on my Facebook page but on my YouTube channel, Just Fish Outdoors, that takes you through many of these items that we're talking about today. The only difference is I'm fishing the White River in Arkansas. And I've got a whole video up there showing you how to catch these fish, showing you the rigs we're using, showing you some of the tricks that I use to catch these fish. So feel free to go out there and check out that. It'll help you out somewhat. One of the things you'll notice on the YouTube channel is I'm throwing marabou jigs, and that's another devastating thing to throw on these trout. You can have a 16th or 32nd ounce, or even sometimes a 64th ounce marabou jig. You fish that quite a bit too, don't you, Brian?
Oh yeah, definitely. Just throw the solid marabou jigs and do what we call the trout dance with them.
Yeah.
And like I said earlier, sometimes that fish, when he hits it, it'll just be a peck, and other times he'll be in 3 inches of rod when he hits it.
And this combination or this strategy, this tactic, this presentation, folks, is capable of catching fish in multiple states.
Yes.
I've used some of these same techniques in Oklahoma, in Arkansas, in Missouri, even further north up toward the Canadian border, as far east as Maine. Some of these tactics will work regardless of where you're fishing for trout. It's just a question of shaving and customizing that particular jig or that particular artificial by weight or by hook or whatever to that particular particular set of problems or particular set of circumstances you're trying to fish that rig with. What else comes to mind, Brian?
Well, you vary the weight, you vary the length. Another very good presentation method is with what we call the clear plastic bubble or casting bubble. This is a clear plastic float that you can purchase. It has most of them have a push button or a twist top on them where you can actually put a little bit of water inside the float. And what that does is it adds weight. And that allows you to cast small jigs, and you're able to get to distance on it, and you can fish that rig. You vary the leader length according to how deep you're wanting to fish. And this is an effective way to fish jigs. It's an effective way for those of you that do not have fly rods. This is an effective way to fish flies. This is also a very effective method for bait fishing.
Providing you have lots of perseverance and patience.
Yeah, do not do it at night.
Not unless he wants you to drive you to drink.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
We've tried to do the cork thing with rainbows one night down at the Lower Illinois, and half a jar of corn and several salmon eggs later, we went back to camp.
Yeah, it can be a hair pulling situation to try to catch. And the reason why is these fish are so fast. I mean, they can hit that thing and steal your bait. They feel that resistance, I think, of the cork, and they turn it loose. And by the time you can react and jerk to try to set the hook, that fish is long gone.
Yeah, he's 5 feet away and smacking his lips, waiting for you to throw it back out there so he can eat again.
Yeah, it can be a real trying experience to catch these things.
If you're conservation minded, this is definitely the method for you. But I guarantee
you're not going to have to worry about catching your limit. That's for sure.
No,
You'll be feeding the fish. That's what you'll be doing. And once again, this is another technique. There are a lot of techniques and presentations that you can use to catch these fish, and you just kind of have to experiment and figure out which ones you like the best. Everything from marabou jigs, plastic jigs, spinners, spoons, live bait. Some of these fish, especially the larger ones, can readily be caught on small live minnows. That's one of their favorite baits.
Oh yeah,
and they're used to seeing those, and they'll readily attack them. So that's just another option for the person that's pursuing these little critters. One of the nice things about trout fishing is you don't have to have the big huge boat, the motor, and all the accoutrements that go along with that, and all the baggage that goes along with that, as well as the big V8 towing vehicle. You don't have to have any of that stuff.
No.
You can. It's amazing how minimalist that you can go trout fishing on.
Yeah, you can load up the Volkswagen and go.
There you go. I mean, it's not a budget-busting thing.
No, it is not.
It is a very, very budget-minded, budget-friendly way to fish. And these fish are excellent table fare.
Oh, definitely.
Once again, you can fry them, bake them, broil them, cook them, smoke them.
Yeah, however you want to do it.
Do whatever you want to do. One of our favorite ways is to wrap them up in aluminum foil, throw a pat of butter in there, and throw them out on the grill for a few minutes, and they're done.
Yeah, it don't take very long at all to cook a trout.
No, it doesn't. And the bones, we do not fillet the fish. It's your preference whether you want to take the head off or not. But the fish are the entrails are removed, and they're cleaned, and we cook them whole. And when you do that, you can basically chew down on one side of the fish and reach in there and grab that backbone and just pull the whole line of bones right out.
Yeah,
with
the whole skeleton will come out in your hand, and then you can wrap your lips around the other side.
Yeah, then basically you have a filleted fish. Then.
Yeah. After that, you can go to town, man. You don't have to worry about anything.
Yeah, you can really get after it, and they're full of good vitamins. vitamins, and they're good for you. So that's something to consider as well. And they'll freeze up pretty good. I mean, you can the way I like to do it is vacuum pack them, but they'll freeze up real good, and they're excellent table fare. And there's a multitude of recipes out there.
Oh, good grief!
For these things. So it is a very budget friendly thing to get into trout fishing, especially around here in Oklahoma. And there's a lot of places. We primarily talked about the Lower Illinois, but there's Beaver's Bend down on the state park that runs out of. I just forgot about it. I tell you, it's tough when you get old, that's for sure. These things just go and come. But the Oklahoma Department of website has a complete list of where they stock these fish at. Broken Bow. See, I tell you.
They come to you eventually. Yeah, there's Broken Bow. There's Blue River down at Tishmingo.
Yeah, Blue River. Well, Blue River is one of those wintertime fisheries
right.
that we talked about. They only stock them. I think they start sometime around October or November stocking them. Once again, you don't have to have a budget busting rig to go fishing. You can just load up your rod and a few goodies and go try your hand.
A few of those what they call throwable devices.
Yes, the 3 of those throwable devices, that's for sure. That's what else comes to mind, Brian, about the trout fishing?
Well, people need to keep in mind that when they go fish for these things, when you catch one, when you look at the fish, probably one of the first things you're going to notice is that trout have a very large eye, and that means they have very good eyesight. Trout, you can read stories about these guys going out to some of these western rivers and creeks and stuff and literally having to sneak up on the stream in order to be able to cast to these fish because they're that spooky.
Yeah, crawl on their bellies.
Yeah, well, your stockfish ain't going to be like that. But it's the same token. You want to remember when you get ready to go after these critters, keep your tackle in mind. Keep it light and keep it simple. 4-pound line, 6-pound line max. 5.5 foot rod, light spin casting or spinning gear. And I would have to say that is probably one of the absolute keys to being successful at catching them.
Yeah, and that's some really good information. It never hurts to be quiet and somewhat sneaky when you're trying to find these things. Brian, thanks for coming on the show today. And I know we've helped some folks maybe introduce them to some trout fishing. That's something that we really enjoy over the years, and I hope they will as well. And folks, remember, if you'd like to know more about Just Fish Outdoors or anything we can do to help, feel free to drop us an email at justfishoutdoors@justfish.com, or you can jump on our Facebook page, Just Fish Outdoors. This is Dale York for Just Fish Outdoors saying, we'll catch you later.